Today is August 15th. Welcome on into Daily Cards Live here on ClaibsOnline.com. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Bob Ramsey, and we're brought to you each and every day by Munganess St. Louis Acura and Royal Banks of Missouri. Rammer, it was a fun weekend of baseball, all surrounding the 1982 40-year anniversary. The Cardinals very well could have come away with it with 3 wins against the Brewers, but 2 out of 3 isn't that bad when you look at it, and based on what expectations were. All in all, I think a very good weekend for the hometown Redbirds.
It was good baseball, played very evenly, and it was entertaining all the way around. And make a mistake here, you lose a game, and that applied to both teams.
And on Sunday, I mean, it was capped off with just vintage Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols that we haven't seen in 15, 18 years, just going in and taking over a game. I talked to Claibs last night about it, and he had Albert on in the post game, and he said, that's an Albert I haven't seen since, the mid 2000s. With what he had yesterday. I mean, that's a guy right there. He wants 700 home runs.
Well, I think he also wants to win one more time.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that the winning is the motivator, and the numerical gains are the icing on the cake. But the cake is winning, and it was really an impressive showing. And his numbers against lefties continue to be nothing short of amazing, and he's hitting righties enough to not have a strict platoon, especially since there aren't any really left-handed bats on the team that are killing it. So I think he's going to play maybe half the games the rest of the way, maybe more.
When's the last time you saw Albert have that kind of emotion after a hit, like the home run that he had in the 8th inning?
I don't recall it, and I don't know what it was like with him in California. But I haven't seen that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
No, it was pretty spectacular. And again, because it was giving his team a winning margin. And that's what it was clear. That's what mattered to him. And also that had to feel like it used to feel for him.
You mentioned the lefties not hitting. That brings up a point that I think that we're going to be maybe forced to dive into later this week, if not already tomorrow. And that's the roster construction right now. Lars Nootbaar, left-handed bat, I think has secured his spot in right field as the Cardinals' everyday starter. You have Nolan Gorman, who seems to be your left-handed hitting DH now, as Jim Edmonds pointed out in the broadcast this weekend, a 22-year-old DH. How often do you see a guy that is almost strictly a designated hitter at the age of 22? And Gorman just is right now, just because of where everybody plays defensively and how good the Cardinals defense is. Nothing against his defensive skills. There's just guys that are better. And then Brendan Donovan, who I guess has seemed to fall out of favor maybe with the club, or they just can't find a spot for him.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with him. He's got to play more. They don't have a leadoff guy. He's the only legitimate leadoff guy on the roster, and they're not playing him. Sometimes I've seen it happen before. I asked Joe Torre about it back in the early 90s when he was St. Louis. This guy is so good. Why is he not playing? We're better when he comes off the bench. And I'm going, what? How can that be? The guy playing ahead of him is not as good. But keep in mind, let's say it's the 8th inning or the 9th inning, and you're facing a right-handed pitcher. If Donovan's not available, who do you have to come off the bench against a right-handed pitcher?
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of lefty, and that's what I'm going. The one I haven't mentioned too is Corey Dickerson, who's out there and who badly misplayed a ball on Saturday after being originally scratched from the lineup due to a lingering calf issue. Juan Yepez is set to come back this week. And that's why I just listed all of those lefties and the platoon of lefties that the Cardinals have. There was a reason for taking the long route to getting to this point, is when Juan Yepez comes back, I think it's very easy to platoon him in right field with Lars Nootbaar, lefty-righty out there, but he has to take somebody else's roster spot. I don't think the Cardinals send Gorman or Donovan down to AAA for 2.5 weeks until September call-ups. I would think at this point, you're at the point of the season where you don't DFA Corey Dickerson, where maybe you say, hey, Corey, you remember that calf injury from Saturday? Hey, it flared up. We're putting you on the IL.
Right. I think that's the answer. I don't know if they'll go to a strict platoon right away with Yepez. They don't want to bury him on the bench, but Nootbaar has earned the everyday spot. But you're right, against a really tough left-hander, that would probably make sense. We've already seen in the middle infield and other spots, defense matters. Yep. And Nootbaar is a far superior defender, but maybe a Yepez starts and then Nootbaar comes in a switch later. So there's a lot of ways you can maneuver that. And Nootbaar's splits aren't that dramatic.
No, they aren't, and that's the thing. When you look at the future of guys like Nootbaar and Donovan, I know both their first full year in the major, and Nootbaar, kind of platooned a little bit last year, was kind of a 4A guy, but both of them hit lefties well for being left-handed batters. That's something that you look at in the future when building a team.
Yeah, and I think Lars's deal is once he started playing regularly, playing every day, you could see all of his abilities come out. And he's earned that spot. But I do agree, maybe against a guy that is particularly good, maybe with a slider, cutter away, a guy who, provides an opportunity to exploit a Nootbaar weakness in particular, maybe you make those switches.
The Cardinals also made another announcement this past weekend. Dakota Hudson's spot in the rotation will be skipped. He will not get a start this week against the Rockies. So they're going to stick with that 4-man rotation that we've seen them have since the All-Star break, and it's been nice to have Mondays off all month long so far. When you look at the 4-man that they have right now, I think when you look at that with Michaelis and Wainwright and Montgomery and Quintana, and it's, one of those things that you look at, and we're getting closer to postseason baseball. Major League Baseball just announced their postseason schedule this year. It's something to get excited about, that you have 4 guys that are really on top of their game right now starting.
4 veterans who know how to pitch and will give you innings. I haven't really examined the schedule. I know those first rounds, there's not much time off, and you may need to squeeze a 5th guy in, but by and large, you can go with 4 in postseason. So, the 2 pickups and how good they've been, that it really gives you the opportunity you're looking for to advance in October.
It is, you mentioned that. So one thing that Major League Baseball announced today, and we kind of knew with the way the schedule came out. So the wild card rounds that the Cardinals right now kind of on the outside looking in with the Dodgers and the Mets and what they've done this year out in the NL East and what the Dodgers are doing in the West. Their Cardinals will be playing in that wild card round, which is a best of 3 days. And if the Cardinals win the division, they are hosting those games at Busch Stadium, all 3 of those games. And I believe those are 3 days in a row, just 1, 2, 3, boom.
I think
we're
it's
knocking
Friday,
those
Saturday,
out.
Sunday, isn't it?
I think that's October 7th, October 8th, and October 9th. So it's a fun weekend of baseball. You get 4 best of 3 series. And then it goes right in. You get Monday off, and then the ALDS and the NLDS immediately start on Tuesday, and there will be no break in the schedule between games 4 and games 5. So games 1 and 2, and then you go to the new site for games 3 and 4, and then you finish that game 4 and you travel to wherever game 5 is if necessary. No day off for that.
Leave that night after the game and you go into the other city and get it going. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the biggest part of it, like you mentioned with that 4-man rotation, the biggest thing happens in the NLCS and the ALCS. There is no more day off in there. You are going straight through game 3 to game 7. 5 days in a row, you are playing baseball, and you're going to need a 5th starter. You're going to need a bullpen start, which if you're looking at the way the Cardinals are constructed, that's, Hudson, Palante are guys that fit in there and whatever Flaherty does.
If you're healthy, you shouldn't need a bullpen start, but you got to figure out between now and then who is your 5th starter.
Yeah. And I say that because that guy ends up in the bullpen
In the
for,
bullpen. Yeah, you're right.
so
I got you.
that's, so you're kind of just going off of that. So as you look at the way that's kind of constructed, you do need to have those deep pitching staffs that the Cardinals are now have with the moves that Mo made.
The other thing with this schedule as it's come out, I think it better replicates regular season routine, and that's theoretically more fair. In the past, when you could try and get by with three, you often had to have a fourth guy. But with three guys, if you're really good at the top of your rotation, gives you an edge. But the deeper you have to go into your rotation, and the deeper a given team is in its rotation, replicates what we're seeing in the regular season.
MLB also announced the dates for the World Series. If you're interested in something like that, Game 1 would be Friday, October 28th. Game 7, Rammer, would be November 5th. November baseball.
Yeah, I'll never get used to that. It's basically a month later than the way it used to be when I was a kid. The thing would be over by October 5th.
Yeah. That's what happens when you get 12 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly right.
I tell you, I mean, that whole wild card round, just being able to schedule that on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that excites me. That is a fun weekend to just sit back and do nothing but watch baseball, college football, college basketball, or college football and NFL football all weekend long. That's fun.
Well, too, the people like postseason sports where it matters. And whereas I grew up, one winner each league, play 7, and that's it. It's expanded over the decades. And I think I'm with you. I'm not going to be the get off my lawn guy. I think given the circumstances, it's a pretty good setup.
Yeah. More baseball is good baseball. And especially more October baseball is always going to be more fun to watch when so much is on the line.
Yep.
Ramber, we got the Rockies back in town. Hopefully the Cardinals can use the momentum of good baseball that they played this past weekend and pick up some victories they left out in Denver just last week. We will preview that series starting tomorrow before the first of 3 games there in St. Louis. Were there any interviews or anything that you saw from the 1982 guys this weekend that stuck out to you? Anything that you enjoyed?
I really enjoyed a couple times different venues hearing from Keith Hernandez, who, wasn't always media friendly through the middle of his career. But he has made himself more accessible. And I was such a big fan of his because he's such a terrific player. To hear from him and get his thoughts is impressive. And by the way, whether you're a Keith Hernandez fan or not, but if you love baseball, the 3 books he's written are all excellent baseball books. If you love baseball, he's written 3 really terrific books that any baseball fan would love.
I also, with the whole Keith Hernandez thing, what I really love is that he made national headlines about a week ago because he came out during the broadcast and said that he despised the way the Phillies played baseball so much that he refused to call their games. When really he was just leaving, he was taking the weekend off to come to St. Louis, but he made it into such a bigger story that caught national headlines. He just wanted to come to St. Louis and hang out with his friends for a weekend.
he threw chum in the water, and all the media jumped all over it. Yeah,
he said
about playing the media like that.
That was really good. Him and Danny Mac, and then him in the radio booth, both good stuff for Keith Hernandez this weekend in St. Louis. We will be back tomorrow previewing Rockies and Cardinals 3-game series here in St. Louis. Until then, this has been another edition of Daily Cards Live, brought to you by Munganast St. Louis Acura and Royal Banks of Missouri.
Royal Banks for better service means better banking locations in St. Louis, on the east side, St. Charles, and the 3 newest branches. I had a lot of syllables in there. I had to get them all out. the three newest branches in Northeast Missouri. It's Royal Banks bringing you the best banking opportunity for you. It's where better service means better banking.
Kids go back to school this week. If they are using the word threeist, you can blame Bob Ramsey for all of that. Send your complaints into claibsonline@gmail.com. This has been Daily Cards Live, brought to you by Munganast and Royal Banks. We will talk to you tomorrow.
St. Louis Acura has almost 200 pre-owned vehicles in stock with inventory arriving daily and can offer the best trade-in value. While others raise their prices and fees, we choose to earn your repeat and referral business by not taking advantage of the current market situation. We invest in our team, becoming one of St. Louis's top places to work and fastest growing companies. St. Louis Acura remains committed to becoming better than ever for you. Located at Manchester and Mason Roads.